Alabama's number 10 in the Hall of Fame top 12 plus rankings, inside the playoff, but barely. Publicly, Alabama's biggest question centers around who replaces Ty Simpson at quarterback in 2026. But after Georgia and Indiana exposed a Tide offense that couldn't run the football when it mattered the most in 2025, the Tide's real question on offense is likely centered around its rebuilt offensive line. Austin Mack knows Kalen DeBoer's system. Kalen Russell brings five-star talent, mobility, and a higher ceiling. With questions remaining about that Crimson Tide rushing attack, though, Kalen DeBoer and offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb cannot afford to choose wrong. Tonight, Coach Smook of the Coach Smook Network joins us to break down the battle. Who gives Bama the best chance to win big in 2026? Mack or Russell? Hey, it's Hall of Fame Top 12 Plus night. Let's get into it. Good evening, and welcome back to the Hall of Fame Top 12 Plus show. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. If you love college football, you know you're in the right place. Before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss a moment of Hall of Fame college football. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Brandon Snake, Zach Willie, My Gun Sweetness, Brandon Snake. Let's see. Coach Snell Gaming. Stay up, Doug. Yes, sir. We will have Coach Smook in here shortly. We're going to get into talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide, breaking down this quarterback battle and whatever may be missing from this team to allow them to compete for a national championship, which is what Alabama fans are pretty much demanding right away from Kalen DeBoer. Alabama currently sits at number 10 in the Hall of Fame Top 12 Plus rankings. That means the Crimson Tide is inside the projected playoff field if it was to start today. But it's not operating with much margin for error. USC and BYU sit right behind Alabama, while LSU, Michigan, Texas A&M, and Florida are waiting in the first four out. Alabama returned to the CFP last season and won its first-round game against the Oklahoma Sooners, but the Tide's offensive limitations became clear against Georgia and also in the Rose Bowl against Indiana, the eventual national champions, because of its lack of ability to run the football consistently. The running game, not having that consistent run game put a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson. He didn't even end up finishing the Rose Bowl. He was banged up pretty good in the Georgia game as well. But it was clear that there was clear moments in the season that you could tell that Bama was way too dependent on the quarterback and his arm, kind of bailing them out of everything. They didn't run the football enough, and that's definitely something it's kind of following them into the 2026 season. Now, Alabama enters Kalen DeBoer's third season with a quarterback competition between Austin Mack and Kalen Russell. A lot of rumors going around. SEC Media Days this week said that Austin Mack is the leader for the starting position. I find this to be crazy. But at offensive line is replacing most of its starters. Again, through the portal, you lost big names like Parker Brailsford. But, there's definitely some concerns about that. It feels to me like, there's something we're going to talk to Smook about and seeing exactly how is it that everybody feels about this new line. Will it gel together quickly? Will you be able to put together a run game that allows you to take some pressure off the quarterback, whoever it may end up being, when that goes down. The defense is obviously expected to be legit. They probably have one of the top, no, not probably, they have one of the top secondaries in the country. And, they really didn't, it doesn't seem like they did anything but reload in that front seven either. That's one of the things that you do see continuing under Kane Womack to be pretty solid, as just like it always seemed to be under Nick Saban. But, the central question that we have for tonight is Alabama a complete playoff team, or is the Tide holding the number 10 spot right now because of its talent, defense, and brand still receiving the benefit of the doubt? If you're not familiar with the Hall of Fame Top 12 Plus First Four Out show and the rankings, take a look at this before you freak out about it. Here's a quick program reminder for any of you newbies watching the Hall of Fame Top 12 Plus for the first time. Welcome in. Each Thursday, I rank the 12 teams I believe are the best in college football, plus the 4 that are going to be jockeying for those positions as the season progresses. That's it. 12 plus 4. 16. No more. That's on purpose, because while the Big 10, Big 12, and ACC are out here pushing for as many teams as possible in a playoff, I'm on the side of the 90% of college football fans who think 12 is more than enough. The drama of teams jockeying in and out of these 16 spots every week, that's the show. That's what you want to hear about. So that's what I want to talk about. Every week, I break down who's moved, who's on the bubble, who's overrated, who's underrated. And I'll defend every single one of my rankings live. So let's get into it. All right. Welcome back in. Hey, Latoya Billingsley, welcome into the show. Rob077, Sully, my guy. What's up? Good to see you, man. Jason Jackson, Trojan Fight. Again, Zach Willie, good to see you guys in here. Stay up, Doug. Yeah, Coach Smook, again, will be in here shortly. We'll be breaking down some of this stuff, but let's go through those top 12 plus rankings now. Obviously, I've got Notre Dame at number 1. I think Notre Dame is probably, listen, I get it. They don't play the biggest schedule, the toughest schedule in the country. They probably shouldn't get tested until the Miami game, unless you consider, obviously, I think BYU on the road will give them a tough matchup. But with the defense the way it is, their offensive line being one of the best in the country, their defensive line being one of the best in the country, and the fact that they have year after year elite secondaries themselves, I think that they're probably the most complete team, and they're gonna hover around the top 5 for the entire year, unless they were, to somehow fall apart. They got a second-year quarterback coming in as well. They loaded up on receivers, and look, make no mistake, they're gonna find a way to kind of get it done in the running game, because that's what they do. It's not like Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price were the only guys in that running back room. When you have an O-line like you have and a quarterback with the arm talent that they have in obviously CJ, they're good to go. Number 2, Ohio State. Look, I think that you start looking at what this offense is, Julian's saying their defense was pretty solid last year under Matt Patricia. I think this is a really, really good football team again. I've got them at number 2 right now. The top SEC team in the rankings is Georgia. Second-year starter, Gunnar Stockton coming back. This is a team that grew up a lot last year. It's still very young, but I expect them to be better on the defensive side and hopefully more explosive on the offense. But again, I still think, back-to-back SEC champions, you kind of have to give them the nod. After that, Texas, look, they're loaded. They're loaded. A lot of people expect them to win it all, and probably with the talent level that they brought into the building, they probably should. We'll see whether they do or not. but I think right now about as low as I could put them would be number 4, followed by Miami. Miami probably could be a little higher up on this. The question that I have about the Canes is whether or not that defensive line is going to last or be anywhere close to what it was with Ruben Bain and Messidor last year, who, went off to the NFL draft after they made it all the way to the national championship game and came up about 45 yards short of winning it. Oklahoma comes in after that. I think this is the best defense in the country, top to bottom. And that starts in the trenches, the front 7. The secondary is also elite. I think overall what Brent Venables does, we know, is really get it done on the defensive side of the ball. The big question for them is obviously John Mateer and whether or not he can be better than he was a year ago and whether they can run the football, similar to what we're talking about with Alabama tonight. After that, Oregon, the Ducks are loaded. They always are. A lot of people would tell you that this is a low ranking for them. They've got them way higher up the list than that. Look, I got to kind of see more out of Dan Lanning. I think that's something that me and Smook agree on. Dan Lanning, look, they do well every year. They did win the Big Ten in their first year in it, but then they turned around and got blown out in the Rose Bowl. It seems like every time they lose, or particularly a big game, it's big. They lost by 30-something points to Indiana as well the week after Alabama got knocked out of the playoff in the Rose Bowl. I need to see a little more from them. I love Dante Moore. I love Decoria Moore, and I love their defense. But we got to see them kind of win some of these big games when they are in them. Ole Miss, look, this is nothing more than a play on what they brought back, which is Trinidad Chambliss, the quarterback that I believe is probably the best in the country, if not at least just the best in the SEC. They also have Kejuan Lacey coming back. They loaded up the defense a little bit. Their offensive line mostly stays intact. We'll find out whether or not they can continue to operate the way that they were under Lane Kiffin, and we're going to find out pretty quick. Obviously, after that, I've got Indiana, then Alabama at number 10, followed by USC and BYU. In the first 4 out, let's see. In the first 4 out rankings, I've got LSU, Michigan, Texas A&M, and Florida. Look, I think that LSU, I kind of need to see them do it in the first year. You've even heard, Lane Kiffin kind of set up an early excuse for not being national championship ready year 1. They did load up and spend a lot of money in the transfer portal, but, until we see what their quarterback situation looks like and that, that they remain as good as they were on defense, I think they might be a year away from being as good as they're going to get. They're going to get good. Maybe they may, though, and we'll know pretty early on. I think week 3 is when they play at Ole Miss. They end up playing Texas. They've got a loaded schedule. This is a schedule like we haven't seen Ole Miss have to play before. Ole Miss definitely has to play a tough schedule, but LSU also does this year as well. It's a tougher schedule than they had last year as well. They also, they add Texas to the mix. They're going to be playing a lot of the top teams obviously in the SEC, including Alabama at one point this season. So getting into Bama, just kind of, and, talking a little bit about where we are. Look, the rankings remain based on an off-season roster construction, what they look like, returning talent, coaching, quarterback outlook, schedule, and, the overall championship potential that I believe that they have. It's a fluid list. It's going to change a lot as the games start getting played. But as of right now, as I said, I don't feel like I don't do a top 25 ranking anymore because right now the only thing that really matters is who gets into the playoff. And so these are the teams that I think are the best in the country. and the ones that are, just kind of sitting on the edge there. Now, new information can strengthen or weaken a team's case without really changing its ranking. I think that in the case of Alabama, you might have them a little higher up if you knew who was going to be the quarterback. And I might probably have them a little higher up if it sounded like it was going to be Kalen, just to be honest with you. Right now, they're inside the playoff field for me, though. They're not being treated as a top-tier national championship candidate by a lot of people throughout the country. I'm not one of the people that's ready to write off Bama, though. There's still loads of talent there offensively. My guess is even when Kalen DeBoer was at Washington, the offensive line wasn't necessarily as big as what you've seen Alabama offensive lines be in the past. Didn't mean that they weren't good. They won the award for the best offensive line in the country the same year that they went to the national championship game. Still, last year didn't look great. So there's a big question there, right? Now, they do sit behind 4 SEC teams in my rankings, but they're basically SEC adjacent, though, in the broader discussion. They're behind, though, Georgia, Texas, OU, and Ole Miss. LSU sits 3 positions behind Bama and is the first team out. Obviously, Bama's position has got to be treated as a playoff endorsement, not a championship guarantee, though, right? Again, I think that I'm not ready to write them off. And they're in position to be treated as a playoff team, but number 10 isn't a throne. It's a chair that somebody else is trying to grab right now, okay? And that's going to be the way it is all season. And especially with a 9-game schedule, it's going to get wild, right? Now, the quarterback competition is going to dominate the headlines, right? It's been dominating the headlines ever since Ty Simpson left to the league. But I think Alabama's ranking may ultimately be decided by whether the Tide can run the football, again, against teams standing directly above or below them, right? Let's see. So why are they my number 10 team? Kalen DeBoer and the Tide returned to the CFP last season, went on the road in that college football playoff and beat Oklahoma, who had beaten them in their house earlier in November. So obviously, that this is a championship coach. This is a championship coaching staff. They've done it at a lot of places. I know that there's a lot of people around Tuscaloosa that are not really giving them the benefit of the doubt. But if you ask me, it's a little early to do that in view of the fact that he still hasn't lost a ton of games in his career, and he's got over 100 wins as a head coach. The defense improved a ton, I felt like, last year. I think it was one of the best defenses in the country already. They definitely had one of the elite secondaries that you were going to see in 2025, and they don't really lose anything off of it. It's going to be elite again in 2026. They forced a lot of turnovers. That's kind of the way that they got things going after getting down 17-0 against Oklahoma. And they were able to turn it around with a pick 6, and obviously fumble recovery, things like that. Not something that I love talking about. But look, DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have a strong history of developing quarterbacks and producing explosive offense. So at the end of the day, I'm not ready to just write them off, even if their running game isn't what you've come to expect from Alabama teams. Now, after following the staff to Tuscaloosa, Austin Mack should possess a strong understanding of that offensive system, and it sounds like he does. Keelan Russell offers elite upside, though. Mobility, playmaking is, at a high level. I saw him in the A-Day game like a lot of you did, and he looked fantastic to me. Now, they continue to recruit championship-level talent as well at Tuscaloosa. That's not going to stop happening. People want to go there for the history and for the fact that they still will play for – they're going to play for SEC championships. This is what they do. The Tide has enough overall roster quality to beat almost anybody on their schedule, if they play a good game. Now, why are they only at number 10? The running game was not reliable against championship opponents, okay? Ty Simpson was forced to carry too much of that offense. There was times that really he got let down by his best receivers and, or guys that you expected to be his best receivers, but there was really nothing else that you could lean on because the running game was, largely ineffective for a large part of the season. Indiana dominated Bama at the line of scrimmage. That's not something that you're used to seeing. Most of the offensive line had to be replaced, and the new offensive line is unproven, and it may be a little bit lighter. I think that's by design, but it's still a fact. Now, the Alabama quarterback competition remaining unsettled is another reason that I only have them at 10. Like I said, I think if Kalen or even if they were guaranteed that they was going to be Austin Mack and they were telling you that, you might be able to get behind it because they're really endorsing them, right? It sounds like that's where they're headed, but it's still a question out there. I think it's crazy that they would go with unless Austin Mack is heads and shoulders above Keelan Russell. I don't know how you go with Mack. But his third season, DeBoer's third season, brings significantly greater pressure. I know that he did just sign a extension, so I don't expect them to get rid of him, whether or not they make the playoff this season. But it doesn't mean it's going to, quiet anybody down if they're not one of the elite teams in the country. Why is Indiana still ahead of Bama? Well, they provided direct evidence that they had a more complete team. They're better. They were better in the trenches and more physical in that Rose Bowl game. Why Ole Miss stays ahead of Bama? Trinidad Chambliss and a running game that is good with Kejuan Lacey, plus most of their offensive line coming back. There's questions about Ole Miss, and they're going to have to answer them. But I think right now, I really can't put them in front of them. Now, do I think that Ole Miss is a shoo-in to get to the playoff either? I do not. I believe that the fact that they're going to play the schedule that they're going to play this season is going to test them in a way that they weren't tested last year. And without Lane Kiffin there to, right the ship if things get off track on that offense, there's big questions. Why did they remain ahead of USC and BYU? Well, I think that their defense, their recruiting depth, and their overall roster ceiling is still better than SC. It's still better than BYU as well. Why are they still ahead of LSU? Probably because we're just not sure yet. I think that LSU's roster is if it's not more complete on paper at least, it's getting there, right? They spent a lot of money on it. They were able to bring in some guys that they really needed to kind of shore up their offensive line. Sam Levitt is supposed to be pretty good. I don't know that I think he's better than either of the quarterbacks that might play for Bama, though. And that's why right now I just think it's, we got to see them kind of take that next step at LSU before you just hand it to them. And really, Lane Kiffin has never really done anything other than last year that, showed that he was a championship level coach. We kind of need to see it still. The quarterback competition is the loudest story, though. Obviously, the offensive line is Alabama's most important story, in my opinion, but that's why I want to get Coach Smook in here shortly to, kind of talk about it. Now, SEC Media Days this week. Let's see who else is in here real quick. You also have to look at the fact that Kalen DeBoer went to a national championship game with this size of O-line at Washington. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's one of those things that you kind of have to look at in that part of it is that, listen, at the end of the day, he's done it with this type of O-line. I think it may fit their offense even more. They're a little more athletic, not as slow to get to where they want them to be. If they're blocking differently and stuff like that, it may work out better. But that's the question. All right. We're going to bring in Coach Smook here to the show. Hold on real quick. While we're doing that, check out this message from our sponsor.
Are
Are you tired of your game day gear looking like it's stuck in the offseason? Well, step up your fandom with Hall of Fame College Football's official Fanatics partner store. Whether you're a diehard Oklahoma Sooners fan like myself, bleeding crimson and cream, or you rep another one of the SEC's heavy hitters, Fanatics has you covered. Shop thousands of officially licensed hats, jerseys, sideline polos, and exclusive championship merch from the entire Power 4 and Group of 6 too. All shipped directly to your doorstep and fast. Want to gear up like your favorite coaches and players? Are you looking for that perfect tailgate tee or a statement piece for your man cave? Fanatics is your one-stop shop for authentic college football gear from everybody that plays the game. So do yourself and your team a favor. Click our link in the description or simply log on to hofmedia.us/fanatics. That's hofmedia.us/fanatics. And you can shop everything that you want for the best prices of the day right on our Fanatics partner page. All right, we are back. And if the SEC is going to reclaim the national championship in 2026, Alabama remains one of the programs talented enough to do it. But talent is not exactly the same as being complete. So my brother, Coach Smook, now joins us to examine whether this Alabama team has the answers. Welcome to the show, my brother.
What's good, Brody? How you feeling? How you feeling, man?
Always good, man. It's good to have you in the show, man. Good to have your people in the show checking it out.
Yeah, man.
Listen, man,
you know how the AAA family do. You know how the AAA family do. Let me fix this mic real quick.
Always rolling with you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming in, talking to us a little bit about it. Look, we're gonna we'll keep it light and keep it close, to 20, 25 minutes having you in here. But look, I guess I want to just talk about the state of the program, where you feel like it is. Obviously, getting back to the playoff last year, there's going to be crazy fans of it no matter what. But it feels like to me that should have been an endorsement for Kalen DeBoer too. It wasn't complete as a football team, but they were still able to get big wins. They beat Oklahoma, obviously, on the road in the playoff. They had beaten Georgia earlier in the season on the road, giving them their only loss of the season until they lost in the playoff. This is obviously still a dangerous program, and Kalen DeBoer has been one of the best coaches in the country for quite a while now. But I've got him right now as number 10 in the top 12 plus. The only question I have is really we're going to talk about this, who's going to win the quarterback battle? And then, of course, are they going to have a better run game to kind of help out that defense from, having to kind of carry all the weight and make sure that you are turning the ball over as much. I think that as good as they are in that secondary, and look, it doesn't seem like they had to rebuild that, in the trenches. They kind of just reload at Bama, as we know. But I guess, do you think was last season progress, disappointment, or both?
I think last season, if you take a collective of the whole overall picture of what we're talking about when it comes to Kalen DeBoer's tenure at Alabama, from year one, going 9-4 to gaining an extra game, actually playing a 15-game season. That's not heard of unless you're playing in the national championship. And that's what traditionally what we've come 15 games in a season means you're playing for a national championship. So the fact that Kalen DeBoer has his team playing in a lot of situations in the first 2 years is kind of like a telltale sign of how he's been able to maintain the same standard in production in all situations since he's become a head coach at the FBS level. So for him to be at Alabama, and we see the change in college football as far as roster management, turnover in roster, it's mayhem. Kalen DeBoer has yet had a starting quarterback for 2 years in a row.
True.
As a head coach at Alabama, like he didn't have Ty Simpson his first year. He won't have Ty Simpson this year. It's one of those things where when you add up the cost and everything that's coming together for what Kalen DeBoer has had to put together and what he's had to construct, a 10-win team. You're talking about a roster that was ranked number 14 in the country going into last season as far as overall talent.
Sure.
They won 10 games with the number 6 hardest schedule in the country. I think Oklahoma was at number 3. You had
Right.
Miami ended up having some top 10 rank. It was crazy.
We won 11 games. I mean, still
But
won 11.
you go 10 in the regular season though. You go 10 and 2 in the regular season, and
Right.
your biggest wins are against the defending SEC champ, right? And this is your second time. You're 2-0 at this point when you beat Kirby and the defending the defending SEC champs. You're 2-0 against them at this point.
And in Athens, by the way.
In Athens, on the road, with the first year starting quarterback. At that, and it's so many other factors that when we think about the overall outcome of the season, you're like, dang, Kalen DeBoer has done a lot at Alabama since he's been there. And yes, there has been some games, you dropped the one at home against Oklahoma. The offense was out of whack. You have some questions about offensive play calling. You have yet to see a run game emerge under Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. But I think he's done enough leading into Alabama to remain optimistic enough to say, well, it took him a year to do it at Washington, right? And he wasn't facing near the type of talent in the Pac-12 that he is now in the SEC. So there might, and we've seen points of the season last season when Jared Miller came back 100% healthy, like the run game was effective. So it's just about putting it all together. And I think SEC Media Day, he answered a lot of questions directly when it came to how they were approaching the offensive play calling this season and what they wanted to see from the quarterback position in order to decide what that was. So I don't think there's another Saban ever, just like Brandon Snake said, I don't think there'll ever be another Saban, but I think for what you have becoming the dominant style of coaching style at this level or in this era of collegiate football, I think the style of coaching that you're seeing have this type of impact championship style is what you see from Kalen DeBoer, the Signetis. And people, you don't have to be graphic and animated anymore. You can't afford it now. The media is everywhere. Things get misconstrued. You have to be able to give these kids a level of responsibility, and culture change takes a little time. And I think that's what Kalen DeBoer went through at Alabama, and they're coming on the tail end of it.
Well, culture change is even tougher though when the fan base is not really on board as a whole with the culture change, right? The expectations remain to do what Nick Saban did, whether or not that's doable or not. And I think you're right in saying that you're never going to see another run like that from anybody in college football with the way things are. As long as there's still NIL and transferring the way that there is right now, that you can move around as you so please, there's no way that you can build the amount of depth that it's going to take to win, 6 and 17 years. This is not happening, folks. And on top of that, look, at the end of the day, I would say right now, look, I believe in, we had the film guy on last week on the Top 12 Plus show, and he was talking about that he sees 7 teams in the SEC that could win a national championship. Their roster's good enough to do it. He included Alabama in that. There's also multiple teams in the Big Ten that can win the national championship. There's Miami. There's Notre Dame. There's at least 12, 13 teams if you're looking at it, unbiasedly, with rosters good enough to win. There's not a clear-cut 1 or 2 teams in the country like there used to be when Nick Saban was patrolling the sidelines in the early years, especially at Bama, right? So it's just not really something that you can expect, right?
I agree 100%. And even like with what Kurt Signetti is doing at Indiana, for people to think that that's going to be a one and done thing, that's crazy. They've actually been on that trend for 2 years now.
They've exploded on the recruiting scene. They're killing it in the portal.
Everything. They've provided a place of value. They've researched a place that traditionally was a blue chip organization program.
And they've evolved their way of doing things too.
Yes. And culture, right? It took years. You saw them go through the dumps. One thing that's what I think about Bama fans and Georgia fans, like, we need to appreciate. We haven't had to go through the culture dumps of losing and having losing seasons like some of these schools have. Texas had to go through it at some point. Oklahoma went through like a 3-4 years phase of it. You got USC, who experienced a high in the early 2000s, and then now look what they're coming. And I think they're going to actually be pretty decent this year too. USC, I do think they're a 9-10 win team season this year. Just kind of off topic, but
they've got a tougher schedule. But yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they're going to compete a lot better.
Looking at the top 12 plus, is 10 too high, too low? You think they're about right? And obviously looking in, we're not sure who your quarterback's going to be. We're going to get into that conversation here in a second. But where do you see that as far as the ranking is concerned right now heading into the season?
I do.
It's a fluid list. It could go up or down.
And we're talking unbiased here. Like I'm pulling my Bama glasses off. I get why everybody's so excited about Oregon. I get why. I understand it. Do I believe in it? No, but I get it. You look at the talent on the roster. You see what they're bringing back. You see the schedule. So I get it. So I would, for your top 12, Oregon would be higher for me. I would definitely have Oregon at 4. Georgia would be at number 2 for me. Ohio State would be at number 1. Notre Dame would be at number 3 for me right now. I don't have Oklahoma at 6. I had them at 11. For me, Bama right now, Bama between 7 and 10 is good for me. I think that's respectable. You're talking about a team that won 10 games in the regular season last year, and their 2 big losses that everybody wants to remember are a conference championship and a second round playoff game to the eventual national champs. Like that's what you can. That's what you can
crap out of everybody but Miami.
Exactly. And that's what people, I think Bama fans kind of have to consider. So even analysts that put these rankings out, I think that's what they have to remember. But there is reason. That's why I say 7 through 10 is safe, because you do have a 5-star quarterback, a number 1 ranked recruit that is competing for the position as starting quarterback. And then you do have the luxury of having not just a quarterback that's been in your system for 3 years, but he was a top 5 quarterback in his recruiting class. Like, so much potential to build on, and we've seen
that too. Right.
We've seen the past 4 years freshman impact on the field. Malachi Toney, Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith. I mean, first-year starters at quarterback have been a game changer. Trinidad Charles is a new face. Diego Pavia, first year in the SEC, a new face. It's been a trending thing for new faces to have a surge early on. And if you got a defense to sustain that, Alabama set up pretty good.
Yeah, they do. They are as far as that goes. Okay, so offensive line in running, and obviously the running game. That's been the big, that was a big talking point, for a lot of national media, inside the Alabama media as well. Everybody wants to begin with Mac versus Russell, but does either quarterback have a championship chance if the O-line isn't better and they're not running the football better?
I don't think you can confidently say yes. If you say yes, you're just overhyping either quarterback. As great as Kalen Russell is, I don't think he does anything at the SEC level without a decent offensive line, right? But I do think it's more so a running back productivity or opportunity usage thing, more so than it is the actual execution of scheme. Because, like I said,
it was the fact that the scheme wasn't calling for
it wasn't demanding for the running back input as it should have. There were times in games we saw it live against Oklahoma where
fans understand that all too well.
Come on, I mean we saw it live at the Alabama-Oklahoma game. Alabama has a drive where they break off 2 4-yard runs, and then they're in 3rd and 2. And they decide to try to do play action pass on the previous drive where we just got Ty Simpson lit up twice. Your offensive line is finally getting their legs back under them, getting a push, and we go away from the thing that's been. So things like that, I think, are being learned from a mentality standpoint on the coaching staff. And then also, player-wise, you got quarterbacks that sit on the sideline and got to watch that in real time. They get to, there's Kalen DeBoer has given Ty Simpson credit enough for taking the helm and making his own calls plenty of times, right? Okay. And we, the fans, have also beat him up for doing that too. So if Austin Mack and Kalen Russell have seen this trend of something working, and then they get a crazy play call in their ear, and they feel like they've been given this job to do the right thing at the right time, and they get up to the line and they need to make a call, those things can be changing deciding factors for how Alabama's production in the run game is. And so we have the talent there. The offensive line talent is
Yeah,
there.
sticking with the O-line real quick, though.
Yeah.
Which players do you feel like have the best chance of being really dependable starters off? I mean, they went heavy in the portal to get the guys that they believe are going to be starters, correct?
Yeah. I think bringing Michael Carroll back, true freshman, could arguably could have been an All-American, even with not being a starter from the first week.
Sure.
Michael Carroll, then Jackson Lloyd is another sophomore redshirt freshman now that's going to be highly rated offensive tackle, going to be manning the left side. And we're getting a good competition at left guard with Will Sanders, who played a lot of, field reps in last year's offensive line rotation. He played some left tackle, played some left guard, came in and played H-back sometime, one of the athletic offensive linemen. But I think the guy that's really going to stand out for Alabama is the center, Rashan Dalgatti. He's the transfer from Poly Cal. A lot of gameplay experience, maybe not SEC level, but a lot of gameplay experience. Is an SEC NFL size center. Has a lot of snaps from the center position, but also has a lot of experience as a guard. That just a lot of interior IQ in multiple systems. So I think he's going to be the guy that kind of sets the standard for how it moves, and that could be a high standard because all you got to do is turn the young man's film on, and he has some quality reps. You may not be seeing him doing it against a first round talent, but definitely something you could
that's
tell.
the thing, though. But experience is always a good thing for offensive linemen, right? Especially when you've got a lot of young guys that you're trying to bring up.
And you don't have to deal with size disadvantage. This is not a small guy like Parker Brailsford, whereas this is a 6'3", 300-pounder, actually slimmed down, leaned up, and was able to maintain a 300-pound weight. So that's going to be good for Alabama for just an anatomy standpoint for the offensive line makeup.
Okay. Do you think that this group better fits the scheme that DeBoer and Grubb like to run?
I don't know. I still don't think personnel wise what they have offensively, right? I don't think this is what they typically want. Now I do see that they've bolstered up the tight end room, the depth in the tight end room. If you go and look at the national championship roster with Washington, they played 8 tight ends in that season.
They had good tight ends too. People forget about that because of that receiving core. Yeah, but their tight ends were legit.
Their tight ends were, I think, 32% of the passing offense.
Correct. They had 2 of them that were unbelievably good, and then they had other guys that played quite a bit.
And now they don't account for the explosives that brought all the attention to Washington. That's why you have those explosive receivers. But you need those tight ends that can be dynamic, that can be solid in pass blocking, and you see the. So I think that's
run blocking, right?
Come on, and Josh Ford, one of the higher rated run blocking tight ends out of the portal at Alabama, and he gets to join a group where he's not necessarily the leader, but he's a veteran presence for 2 young talents in Caleb Edwards and Marshall Pritchett, who showed real big signs. I mean, Marshall Pritchett had a big catch in the Oklahoma game. They tried to call it an incomplete pass, and when they run the replay back, like it's one of those things where it's like you see the athleticism. You just wait for it to come together. But I do think schematically, you're still missing, I think they're going to adjust to how you need to play call in the SEC. I don't think they're going to try to force their hand no more. They have personnel. They from the inside coming out, you hear people talking about the adjustments in the run scheme. So that's got to be the first focus.
That you feel like are you gonna see more of a heavy outside zone look or that they're going to try to run, or do you feel like they're going to, change the looks up with motion, things like that? What are the scheme changes that you're expecting?
I think that the heavy pin and pull actions that we saw that got blew up a lot because you're just dealing with different level of athlete in the SEC coming off the edge, coming off the second level. You're talking about a lot of your weak side, strong side linebackers. They're keying those cues and they're just going. Whether it's the wrong call or not, they're keying and they're killing their assignments. And that's what's been killing Ryan Grubb.
They're blowing up the pin and pull.
Exactly. Right. He's counting on guys to hesitate, but the coaches, defensive coordinators, against these type of schemes, they're telling you to go ahead and go with the keys. Even in RPO looks, go with the keys. Anytime you see hesitation, that's when you get beat. And defenses are getting advanced. So how do you beat that? You got to go back traditional. You got to let your big guys hold up these 6'4", 6'5", 245-pound edge rushers. Make them beat the guy. Make them beat the 6'5", 6'6", 315-pound tackle that got, sweet feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, make them beat them head up. Make them beat. Let me see.
Are you going to continue to see that size of tackles, though, at Alabama, you feel like?
I do. There's a lot of prospects in the 28 class and the 29 class that are right now, you talking about 29 class, they're sophomores. 6'4", 6'3", 325 pounds. Those kids can be 6'6", 6'7" in the next 2 years, man.
Absolutely.
And they're playing tackle right now. A lot of them, one is actually has tight end snaps on this film. A 29 kid that Alabama's looking at out of Indiana. So it's like one of those things where you're looking and you're like, wow, the evolution of the game, we've seen it on the defensive side for the last, let's say, 6-7 years. The edge rushing position, the nickel corner position, the safety position. You see big safeties out there now. Linebackers basically playing safety because they're running 4-4s. The game is evolving. I think Kalen, DeBoer, and this staff, they do see the edge on it, but they do see that trying to get them out in those small fits in space to turn up field is not the most effective in the SEC.
Okay, so everybody knows about Hollywood Smothers coming to Bama, but then moving on to Texas before, he signed anything with Bama. So look at the running back room. Who is the back who can kind of make the running game work for Bama right now? Who do you feel like that is? Is it new? Is it a new guy? Is it a guy you already have there? I know they've got some guys that you've been kind of waiting on seeing them, become the guy, but who's it going to be?
Right now, kind of like the quarterback situation, you go with what you've already seen and can kind of work with. And I think Daniel Hill is more than reliable right now. Do I think he's explosive, the most explosive? No. He has trimmed down over there in the offseason, but he provided a lot of big plays last season.
He's a power run guy, yeah, for sure.
I mean, not even then. I don't even think we've got to see that phase of his game. I think where he's shown his value is his receiving out the backfield. For a team that's going to pass the ball 64, 68% of the time, a back that can step up and pass pro, but also can just be a great outlet and create big plays is going to be a big season for him, man. He's slotted to be the leading guy. I think he's in better condition this year, and with more experience in pass pro, that'll give him an overall better value. But I think the guy, at the end of the day, for this year, I think the future is definitely E.J. Crowell's, but A.K. Deere is an explosive guy. He was very limited, and every one of his carries last season, it was almost like he could break it. So I think he ends up being the guy by week 4, week 5, as the guy that's known out the room. But Daniel Hill will be the guy that's counted on to be the steady Jam Miller, Jace McClellan type presence for that running back room that we've seen over the past few years.
Sure. So is Alabama, though, do you believe they're still built to bully teams, or will this offense have to out-scheme this year?
I do think it'll be an out-scheming year early on. Okay. You look at the schedule, talent will weigh a lot in those first 3 weeks as far as how those games play out. You're talking Eastern Carolina, Kentucky, and Florida State in the first 3 weeks, 2 of those 3 being at home. I don't think Kentucky, talent-wise, matches up, but that'll be a game physically that'll test us. We'll see what level of physicality Alabama could bring offensively in that game, and I think you kind of build your base from there. And then you turn around and
they're pretty physical at Bama, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think when you talk about the run game, how much of the physical run game will we see? I think that's why you see the type of back that Alabama is recruiting is becoming real prototypical, right? You see the guy, they're between 5'11" and 6'2", right? That 200 to 225 range. And you got the 2 big backs that you kind of have as your big flex backs. And so I think they're trying to find the look. It's the play calling style that's going to determine the level of physicality that it looks like.
Okay. Let's get into this Austin Mack, Keelan Russell talk. It sounds like everything. I mean, a lot of people at SEC Media Days have been talking about that they're pointing towards Austin Mack, not Keelan Russell. I know how you feel about this, but where do you feel like this is? What does Austin Mack what does he give Alabama that Kalen doesn't?
All right, so I understand why Austin Mack will get the first snap to start the season. I do understand it. It makes sense in the big picture of things. You have Kalen Russell, who was pushing for the job last season, right? Came in spring.
He was
Made strides in spring against a 4th-year guy in Ty Simpson and a 2-year guy at the time in Austin Mack. You come in and you have to adjust your scheme, and in adjusting, the language is a little different in how he's receiving it. So his turnover might not have been as fast as Austin, but his overall product at the end of spring, nobody can turn the film on and watch any of the practices from, I say, the second scrimmage throughout the rest of the spring. You can't watch any of the clips.
You can't watch A-Day.
You can't don't turn on A-Day, because if you turn on A-Day, you'll think that Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb don't know how to coach. That's what it is. But when you look at the full body of work, Austin Mack is a good base to say, if we are struggling with this, we have to go to Kalen. If we can't be fluid with this, we have to go to Kalen. And you have to give him that opportunity, because, like I said, this is a young man who came in as a top 5 quarterback in his class, reclassified, and was still one of the top prospects in the class. And I don't like to put a lot of weight on that, because I look at where he committed to. He was committed to Washington. A top 5 quarterback in the class was committed to Washington, and that Washington recruiting class was not a top 25 class. So it wasn't like his ratings. And
he had also, I mean, we'd seen what he had been doing with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, obviously he has a history of doing good things with quarterbacks, particularly, the one that's in the league right now.
Yeah.
So, I get that part, but does, who's got the command of the offense? Watching A-Day, it was Kalen, right?
To me, it was obvious.
It was completely obvious. The protection checks, I mean, I get it. Maybe he knows protections a little bit better. Keelan's going to get out of there and do what he's got to do. We saw him making plays on the move, when they did get through that line, and obviously you still have a good defensive front that was pressuring him. He was able to make plays. He was able to make plays with it. Timing and anticipation, I don't even really think that was close. Pocket management, I don't know. I guess if you want him to stick in the pocket or whatever, that's cool. But again, I feel like if your concern is, if there's a concern at all about the offensive line, it feels like you would want the guy that's more mobile, in my mind. But playmaking outside of structure, which if you don't have a better run game, who gives you a better chance to win? Go ahead.
I want to highlight something. A lot of Bama fans, they're going to be ready to be like, told you, Coach Smook, Austin Mack was going to be the guy. I want to say this. For me, when I think about who the starting quarterback is, when you have quarterback battles, this isn't a situation where you have a proven starter from the year before like Jalen Monroe or Jalen Hurts, and you got Ty Simpson or Tua sitting behind you. This isn't one of those. This is an open quarterback battle. And it would be foolish of this staff to not go with the veteran presence in the room, right? And allow him to lose that job, if that's the case. And when I say lose that job, hey, we might be 2-0 at this point, but our completion percentage is at 48%. Our offensive efficiency rating right now is at 39%. Those aren't target. We're
not playing against teams that are great.
Exactly.
So we should be
I
talked about this on last Friday's show about Oklahoma, that winning those cupcake games can kind of hide some of those things, because of the fact that they're just not built to play with you.
Hey, you better ask Kirby and Georgia about it. It took them a few years to learn that real quick. Them what's the young man's name? What was his name? Jake Fromm years. The first Carson Beck year, them cupcake games, they had all this hype about Beck in the passing game. Soon as you got with some DBs, that was, come on, man. But to kind of stay on topic, man, I think when it comes to the quarterback situation with this new quarterback, neither quarterback is proven, right? Neither quarterback is proven. And even if you pull the stats from spring practice, if you pull the grades from spring practice, Kalen Russell graded out higher than Austin Mack. by in a few categories by a great sizable number, right? Something that you're like, there's no way you go with a Mac. But when you listen to how everybody talks about Austin Mack's presence in the huddle, his presence with the team, you could believe in something like that. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but if you get out against Eastern Carolina and we're up 14-0 after the first half and we had the ball 4 times on offense, that's a problem. That's an early problem. That's an early. So you turn the page quick because it's the Eastern Carolina game. You don't allow it to build a narrative. You give them both a balanced opportunity, and I think that's what Alabama's coaching staff is going to be pressured with.
And I think I've said this to you before, but I want to say it again. My opinion has always been that if this is a close race, I felt this way about Ty Simpson last year too. If this is if unless Austin Mack just completely owns the competition, that it's heads above the rest, which is not what we've seen. You're talking about the grades and everything for spring. Yeah. That's not what you're seeing. I didn't see it at A-Day when I was there. Look, unless he's way above him, I don't see how you don't go with the young guy with the high upside and give him that time to, if your expectation isn't necessarily a national championship in 2026, why are you not trying to get the guy of the future ready for 2027?
It's crazy, Jason. And this is just, you don't have to be a football head to kind of think on this and
it's
do this.
It's not rocket science. That's what I'm saying.
You look at, if I'm Kalen DeBoer and I'm this staff, I understand this is Ryan Grubb's second year, but if I'm Kalen DeBoer and this staff, I'm looking at what I didn't learn from with Nick Sheridan and Milroe, because I believe if we made a switch with Milroe at week 4 after the Georgia game, when the offense started to stutter in that Georgia game, Ty Simpson and the way that offensive line was protecting Milroe in that game, they grow. You see a different type of passing offense, a different play calling confidence, and we see Ty Simpson as a different quarterback last year. But you didn't. You stuck with Milroe, and it limited the offense. You don't have that space to say this guy.
A second-year starter yet.
Come on, man. You don't have the space to be like, all right, we could ride with this guy because we know he can win. You don't have that space this season. So any space of like, this ain't what we expect or we demand. This isn't the standard. This isn't the production targets with the explosives. That is something that Ryan Grubb is going to continue to speak on. Hitting those explosive plays. There's a target number, 7 a game. He wants to hit 7. They're going to throw 7 a game. They want to hit 4 of those. Last year, Alabama only averaged 2.3 a game. That's nowhere near the target.
Nope.
But in practice, if you look at even the spring games, the explosive grades for these quarterbacks, that's who graded the highest these past 2 springs. Kalen Russell, the youngest guy in the room. So it's not a secret to who the best option is. But I think you're doing due process by
a safe selection. If they go with Mac, it's just they're trying to be on the safe side,
bro.
Or do you think it has something to do with? I mean that they're trying to go with him because he's stuck with them.
Somewhat, but it's due process. I think in the game of football, especially as a coach, in this day and age of collegiate football, Kalen Russell might be the guy, right? Austin Mack might go out there and he may not be the guy in the live action against Eastern Carolina, and the offense might be sputtering. Alabama might be up 7-0 at halftime, and they go to.
It might not either. I mean, he should be able to run the offense good enough against East Carolina and maybe Kentucky too to be able to do what you got to do. I mean, we don't know what Kentucky's going to look like, but at the end of the day, the early games, you're supposed to be able to blow those guys out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. How do you blow them out, though? I think that's what the staff is going to look at. They've learned from just, all right, we won. We beat them 49-13, but if we had an efficient offense, it should have been 73.
How did we do on third down? How did we do in the
and I think that's what it's going to come down to.
I get it.
And that's kind of like with the quarterback battle. You look at the offensive staff that they've put together around not just the coordinators and the position coaches, but you look at some of the analysts. These are some of the guys that really have contributed to QB development with some of the big name quarterbacks that are in the league right now. They're on Alabama staff, no title other than off-field analysts, and these are guys that could be in the quarterbacks or in the quarterback coach's ear saying, hey, He's not hitting on 3rd and 7 to 15. That's what we're finding ourselves in the most situations in
If
the
you're not
first.
running the ball well, you damn sure will be.
Come on, and you got to have a quarterback, because if you get a quarterback that can hit that at a 68% clip rather than a 34% clip or whatever Ty Simpson was hitting it at when everybody was respecting the passing game, he was hitting it at a 68% completion percentage clip. So, and Jam Miller was looking good, averaging 4.3 yards per carry during that span. Those 4 games, it starts with who your quarterback is at the end of the day. It starts with who your quarterback is, and Mac will get his opportunity, but I think Kalen Russell is the guy, man. I do at the end of the day.
You think that he ends up getting the job at some point, then Mac's going to start the season. You feel like Kalen wins it sooner or later.
I highlighted something about SEC Media Day today, and I know we got to go. Kalen DeBoer made something specific. He said something, and I think he accidentally said it. They were talking about the quarterback battle, and they asked if Coach DeBoer had any aspirations of using a 2-quarterback system. And I want Alabama fans to listen to this, and also Oklahoma fans. Kalen DeBoer shot down the 2-quarterback system idea about as politically correct as you could, right? Without trying. And I appreciate him for it, because I've never seen a successful quarterback, or especially an offensive-minded quarterback, ever consider that. They will say this is the best we can do with this quarterback before they say I'm gonna use 2 guys, like actively to use 2 guys.
It's one thing to do like what they did with Chris Leak and Tebow, in Tebow's first year, where you take him and put him on the goal line and do situational stuff. That's not sharing the role, right? That's not the same shit
at all.
No,
you're not.
It never worked, bro.
You're not putting that play call in on 4th and 1 at the 38. You're not throwing Tebow in right there. You're gonna let Chris Leak do that one. But you on the goal line, you're gonna throw Tebow in. So I don't even think they want that. But he said something, and it made so much sense. He was like, "No, we tend to want to go with one guy from start to finish, but we understand that some things may not be at the level that we are expecting them. And if we have a close competition and we're giving guys split reps and times, that if we need to make a change by week 5, we feel comfortable doing that." And I looked at the schedule. Guess what week 5 is, brother?
Week 5?
Georgia.
Is that Georgia? Yeah.
That's Georgia game. So
you better find out who the hell it is before that.
Come on. And that's the thing. I do believe that, like I've heard from my sources, people that I talk to, I know Austin Mack is going to start against Eastern Carolina. That's his show until he can't show no more. If it's a sloppy win, it could be a 3-4 possession win. But if it's sloppy with his showing, I believe Kalen will be the guy in Kentucky, depending on how that goes. If Kalen handles Kentucky on the road, you can just mark it. But I do think it'll push it to the Florida State game. I do think it'll push back on the road against Mississippi State. And going into that Georgia game, I truly believe they will make a decision, no matter if we undefeated or have a loss under the belt. If each quarterback played good, it will come down to analytics and who can hit those big explosives the most. And Kalen is the best deep ball passing quarterback we have on this roster right now.
Yeah, last time I seen a good 2 QB duo was Virginia Tech. Yeah. How good was that? How good was
7 wins? What it was, 7 wins?
What we talking about?
It was exciting to watch. But you're talking about you're talking about the head coach of Alabama. We're not about to do and even we talk about 2 QB systems. You never, when quarterback battles were happening at Texas and there was Florida a few years back, they weren't go and have this drive. You got to no, bruh. You not playing. You're not producing.
Right.
Your drive done. This your game.
That wasn't. And when you guys are starting to talk about Cardell and Haskins no. That was injuries that got those guys off playing.
Yeah,
that wasn't because they were. He didn't listen to what Urban Meyer will tell you right now. He didn't believe in Cardell Jones for shit.
And then even the next year when he came back, it was like they played that whole loyalty role, and you saw how they dismantled the roster and the offensive flow and how things went. So it's not. I don't think any real offensive minded coach with any true experience wants that situation to play out like that and won't utilize it. And I got to give my brother Jimmy Stein, covers Alabama. I think it's Cover Crimson over there. He made a statement on Twitter about, Alabama's going to need both quarterbacks to compete for a national championship. And to me, it was more of a rhetorical statement because I think Alabama's going to need multiple players.
You need depth.
You need depth,
be able
of
to
course.
know if you lose one to an injury, that the other one can come in and handle business. I get that.
But I think the fan base want so hard to associate that with a two quarterback system, and that's what I went in to shoot the narrative. I was like, no, I don't want people to think that this is saying like, hey, Alabama's going to have a package for Kalen Russell if he's not the starter week one. I don't think they're going to have a package for him every week in every game. I don't think that
Tebow wasn't really a two quarterback system though, Keith.
Come on, man.
That's the thing. They were really what it was you had Tebow would come in on the goal line and do stuff. That was Chris Leake's football team.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Leak was a bad dude, by the way. Chris Leak was a bad dude. Let's finish off talking about the defense, your front seven. We know how good the secondary is. Talk to me about this front seven. Why do you believe that this defense is going to lead the way? It feels to me like you're going to have to depend a lot on the Alabama defense to go as far as you want to go for sure.
I think the front is going to have success because of what we're returning on the back end. Let's just start there. You're talking about five basically starter assets on the back end. And Dijon, who was a freshman, Xavier Brown, top 2 DBs in the country. I don't care what nobody says. Xavier Brown is one of the top 2 DBs in the country. Arguably could be number one.
Bro, Xavier Brown's a bad dude.
Yeah, he's him. And you got Red Morgan, who's a returning starter, who's going to need to improve if he's going to be the full-time starter there, because you got a true freshman in Jaira Edwards, I think, is right there, ready to play that nickel corner spot. And then you got Bray Hubbard and Keon Sapp. To me, could be arguably a top 5 safety duo. Separately, individually, they do what they do. Bray Hubbard, turnover machine, just knows how to be in the right spot. Keon Sapp, rangy, makes smart plays.
Keon Sapp is. He's been that way for 3 years.
Come on, man. And when he's healthy, he's different. So I look at the back end being the catalyst of why the front seven looks so good. One being the D line, like you said, they went out and they were intentional on getting some big names. We talked about Oregon earlier in the season. Earlier in the segment. Oregon being one of the teams that I think should get their respect just by talent on roster alone. They're going to have one of the more talented defenses. Their back end is looking, like gravy, man. It's just smooth. Everybody on that back end, you can project them to be a first, second round talent at the next level.
Kai, you know how stupid this sounds?
What's that?
The 2 QB system with Rattler and Kalen worked at Red River. How stupid do you?
Stop it.
That's not what that was. Quit being silly.
Don't get him started. Don't get him started. but I look at the front, man.
Was a shit show.
They went out and got Terrence Green. The main thing with Alabama, and I want Alabama fans to remember this too. Jeremiah Beeman last year against Florida State, he played in that game. I know we missed him the rest of the season, but Jeremiah Beeman, you go and watch the Florida State game. The interior during the Florida State game wasn't the issue. It was missed tackles and lack of effort at the second level from your linebackers, your safeties not filling the right gaps. It was nothing with Tim Keenan, James Smith, Jeremiah Beeman, Asaya Fega. Those guys, the Edric Hill, they had a strong game up front defensively. Yanzi Pierre, Quay Rousseau, that front four had a strong game for Alabama. I think you went out and you did an anatomy change. You did a facelift up front, right? Terrence Green, Devin Tompkins is another guy that's going to play on the edge majority, but he could slide on the interior. Jeremiah Beeman, I said, is coming back. London Simmons was a freshman stud that showed up last year and just shook college football. Kamarion Johnson is a guy that's coming in, play a lot with the ones this spring. Just a lot of guys. Nolan Wilson is a falling rollie that I think is going to make a lot of noise, right? That's just the interior rotation of guys that you could see from Alabama. And then we always keep an edge. Yanzi Pierre's back. Justin Hill is in his second year.
Hey, listen, and they
just, you can name names, man, but it's about putting it together. I think they will, and I think It's going to to me. It's going to be determined. The front seven, their overall persona or everybody's perception of how good they are is going to be based on Kane Womack and how aggressive he is as a play caller this season. You good over there, man? You need some water?
I'm struggling over here. I don't know what the hell is in my throat, but it has got me coughing like crazy.
Oh man!
All right. Okay, so my final couple questions. This is going to be just a couple of quick hitters. What is the minimum acceptable season in your eyes for Alabama in 26? I mean, what do they need to do for you to be happy?
At worst, let's talk overall record. I think at worst 10-2. You look at this schedule. I don't know if I can share the graphic here. I can show you my prediction.
You can. You can share it right there on your right at the bottom.
What it say? Share media.
Share media.
I got you. All right, here goes the Coach Smook, and this is my final prediction. I went 11-1. I think Alabama has one of the more favorable. My fault. You got it.
I got you. Go ahead.
I think Alabama has one of the more favorable schedules in the SEC. The gauntlet between Georgia to LSU, as tough as that sounds, we host Georgia at home. We're at Tennessee that's going to have a young quarterback. The only way to beat Heupel is to disrupt this quarterback. Kane Womack should have an advantage. On the road, you need to play heavy. I think he understands the SEC environment. Texas A&M at home is favorable. At LSU, I love the hype that they're giving LSU. I just think this is a favorable schedule, man. And Auburn is a dark horse. That's a toss-up game for me. Georgia is a toss-up game for me. And unlike this, the last two seasons.
Definitely not as tough a schedule as what you played last season.
Come on, man. Not having to be at Oklahoma, not having to be on the road at Ole Miss or hosting the Ole Miss this season. I think Alabama's in a good position, bro. And 11-1 is my prediction, but the floor for me would definitely be like 10-2 at worst. Georgia, maybe you drop it against Texas A&M because I believe a little bit in Texas A&M. I do. I can't help it.
Yeah, I don't, but
I can't help it. I just look at what they're bringing back and Elko, what he's doing.
Brand new offensive line there too, though.
A lot of it.
With the first-year play caller on offense, I think that was a big mistake by Elko on that side.
Yeah, that part. But defensively, they come back.
Yeah, they're going to be good on defense.
Yeah.
I think but I also think that if you go back and look at the schedule that they played last year, it's kind of similar to what I've been talking about with Ole Miss. Ole Miss, yeah, they were great. And when they got to the playoff, they showed that they belonged. But they got to their road to get there this year is a lot tougher than the road that they had to get through last year to get there, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with A&M.
This man Benji. Ooh, I ain't gonna do no. I ain't gonna do no OU slander.
There's a lot of haters. Hey, listen. And look, that's why I wanted to bring you on because there are a lot of in a lot of fan bases. I'm not just talking about Benji, obviously a Texas fan. He's been saying that about Bama a lot. There's inside the OU fan base, there's a lot of Bama haters there too. I'm not one of them. You know that. I believe that they're still as talented as anybody. That especially when you got a guy like Kalen, you've got guys like the receiving core that you have, and we didn't talk a ton about that. I think if you're gonna look to a team to be successful, even if they don't have the best run game in the world, this is the team that you can expect it from because that's what they do.
People act like Kalen DeBoer don't win games, bro. That man's been winning games at every level he's coached at, like every level.
I think that there's questions coming in the next couple of years, but I don't think that they have to be all answered in one season where you expect them to win. The expectations to win a natty every year now, it's not really plausible. Do they have a roster that's good enough to win it? I believe they do. Does that mean they're going to? Not necessarily. It doesn't mean it for anybody that has that roster either, though. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite to win the whole thing.
And I don't know why a Texas fan would be speaking on anybody. They season could be over in week 2. Like they should definitely be careful, and they should be glad that they're hosting Ohio State because Ohio State could be stupid scared if that defense is anything like it was last year. The offense is going to be even more efficient. You're talking about week 2 where you really don't know what's coming on, what they're bringing to the table. That wide receiver core is different. Texas got a lot of questions to answer in the secondary. I don't know, man. Texas might want to calm down. And then they at Tennessee. Then they got y'all. Like Texas got they might be 3-4. They Texas might be an 8-4 team next year, but it won't be because they had a strong start to the season. They'll be one of them teams that, oh, look at Texas. They've quietly had a 5-game win streak. Whoop-de-doo. Like,
listen, I mean, the film guy said it last week. A bunch of people have been saying it this week at the SEC Media Days. If you go out and spend the kind of money and you address all the quote-unquote problems that you had last year with the amount of money that they spent, you are out of excuses at this point if you're Sark. You didn't have a good offensive line, so you fired your DC. That didn't make sense. The defense being already carrying them. At the end of the day, there is plenty of pressure on Texas. There's plenty of pressure on Oklahoma. There's plenty of pressure on Georgia and everybody else in the SEC. I think there's a shit ton of pressure on LSU.
Man.
Right, if we're talking about all this pressure on Alabama, the pressure comes from within more than it comes from the outside. People are going to talk smack about everybody. And look, make no mistake, when you've been losing to Bama for as long as all these programs have, there's a lot of people that are ready to see them fall on their damn sword. Look at Auburn. They over there acting like they're here. You know,
hey, but if anybody got reason to believe,
it may be good.
If anybody got reason to believe, bro, especially with the staff, I'm not even looking at roster. Jason, if I walked up to you one day at the bar and I'm like, man, they giving Alex Golish and DJ Durkin an SEC roster.
Sure.
What you know about
bro? They didn't win either.
What you know about Golish and DJ Durkin, you're gonna be like, oh snap! Like
and I think that but you still got to see him do it. There's still pressure in every
moment, but right? If anybody could do it, Jason, come on. I would have gave if they would have gave Golish and Durkin at South Carolina roster.
I think this year's probably a little. The expectations are a little high. I think that the teams that could come out of nowhere. I look at Florida, especially with the receiving room. And if they get anything out of their quarterback situation, they're loaded on defense.
Did you see what USF offense did to Florida's defense last year?
Yeah, I think they were terrible on game day.
Bro.
I think they were terrible on game day.
USF almost gave that game back to Florida. They missed a lot of big plays. That offense is going to be able to grow with a few more SEC like assets on this roster now as far as depth pieces. That's another thing that used to hurt USF the last 2 years. They were doing good in recruiting. They were just so young and building their depth.
I'm not saying that I don't think Golish is good. I think he's really good.
I think Auburn is going to be scary, and I hate to admit it, man. They got so much lined up. I hate it. At
the end of the day, we're going to find out who all this is.
They were a quarterback away last year, bro.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely had – look,
7 games by one possession. 7 games lost by one possession.
That's true. They're definitely loaded on the defensive side. I think keeping DJ Durkin around was huge for them. Huge.
I think he reluctantly didn't demand the head coaching title just because he knew if they brought in a Golish, his job would be that much easier, and that pad his time when his time to move after these 6 years of high that they about to experience in recruiting and competing for a playoff position. He'll be gone in about 3 to 5 years.
He's a stud, man. He's a good coach. He's a good coach for sure.
All right with DJ.
All right. Can Alabama win the SEC?
I do believe they can. I think the schedule is favorable. I do.
It favors them to get there. Finish this sentence. Alabama reaches its ceiling if
Kalen Russell is the starting quarterback.
Okay. Coach Smook, tell everybody how to find you.
Yes, sir. I'm your boy, Coach Smook, your favorite Alabama personal insider and sports media personality. Listen, y'all can find me at Coach Smook on all platforms. We got some new call-in show segment things happening. We collaborate a lot Friday night, so it's going to be a crazy show we got coming up for the kickoff weekend, going into college football kickoff. So y'all, your boy Jason will be on that show. We got a lot of people that's going to be tapped in. Not none of the old lame personalities, but we got some new people that we bring into the scene, and we about to do some things. So y'all make sure y'all go follow, continue to help your boy continue to grow, help both channels continue to grow, as we get ready to bring y'all this authentic content, man. I can't wait to get to this season. I'm excited about the season.
Man, I'm
Jay.
so pumped about the season about to start, bro. Feels like the longest off season ever.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Forever. Yeah.
Benji talk a lot of trash, man. I can't wait to Texas. Ooh, boy. Benji, don't disappear. You know what? That's the problem what I had with Benji too. He disappeared
here's
when
something
Lexus
about Texas.
They could not move people on the goal line versus UTEP.
You know?
Come on, Texas.
The brand has finally returned. Fuck your brand.
Like, you know what? I will say this about Texas. I do believe Archie Manning is the second best quarterback in this upcoming draft. I do believe that.
Behind Dante?
Yeah. I had my doubts about Dante, but I do believe
I like Dante a lot. But
if Landon allows this offense,
Oregon is who I have my doubts about.
Yeah, if Landon allows his offensive coordinator to be an offensive coordinator and manage offensive situations, right? Manage. I think if he takes his hands fully off the offense, that Dante Moore and that offense look better.
Listen, I think they're loaded. I mean, they're loaded. But they were loaded last year. They were loaded the year before that.
It's the Oregon effect, man. We look pretty and play.
I mean, listen, until you, when they lose, they get drug.
Look pretty, play pretty.
You know? It just kind of is what it is. But at the end of I think they're just as good as anybody. I mean, they got as good a shot as anybody. I think Miami could be scary.
And
it depends on what they look like on that D line, I think. But didn't they? As far as rosters go, I mean, Texas and Oregon's rosters, there's really not a whole lot of excuses for them not going all the way.
Texas, Oregon, Ohio State is another one of them rosters that.
Yeah.
Shoot, I see you got Notre Dame at number 1. That's the roster where I felt like
that roster's ridiculous too.
Exactly. Like they don't have any questions, right? You lose your number 1 running back, I believe, right?
Yeah, but they've got Aeneas Williams and that was chomping at the bit to get time last year. And when he did get in the game, he was explosive.
There was no drop off. So
and Mike and Denbrock is a hell of an OC when it comes to. I mean, this is a guy that he brought the last Heisman to LSU, and then Brian Kelly let him go back to Notre Dame.
Yeah. So
look, and
somebody said
at the end of the day, I think a lot of people hate on me for the Notre Dame part. You can hate on it all you want. They're going to be right there.
They will be in it. They might not be number 1. I don't have them at number 1. I definitely have them in my top 4 though, and I think they'll be a legit
OC and DC. That's correct.
Yes. So. And that's what I was saying about a lot. I get it when you just look at what they have on roster.
I have something against Lanning. I have something against the glazing of Lanning when he ain't won shit.
Same with Sarkisian. Same with Kiffin. Like everybody comes against DeBoer as if he hasn't beaten these same guys. Like he's beaten Kirby Smart twice. Can Kiffin say Kiffin did do it once?
That's another reason why. I mean, just like what we saw from Indiana last year. They played one team with a winning record during the season?
2. I think Oregon. Didn't they play Oregon and Ohio State?
During the regular season, they played Oregon, and then they played. I know Penn State didn't have a winning record. I mean, I guess they did play. No, they didn't play. They didn't play. Have to play Michigan. I mean, they didn't play anybody until conference championship again.
Yeah,
and then they played Oregon again in the playoff. But they played a bunch of nobodies all the way through the season. It kept them healthy. It kept them strong. And maybe it helped them.
But you know what?
I mean, if you don't think that Notre Dame is at least that talented, I would point you to the year before that when Notre Dame drugged their ass.
Mm-hmm. Notre Dame did it to Georgia. But I look at this too, Jason. I even look at the spread of the portal now. You're starting to see what initially was happening in 2022 to 2024. The Big Ten was so top heavy. Now you're starting to see a little balance of competition in these matchups. You still got Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana just put their name in the hat. Oregon joined the conference. They put their name in the hat, right? USC brand-wise put their name in the hat. So Now those teams, their rosters have had these 2 years to adjust. I do think the Big Ten has better quality
This
teams
is the
across
third year for at SC. You got to think they've got a quarterback that was he led the nation in
Come on,
QB
man.
rating,
Come on, man.
and this is his third year essentially as the starter. If USC doesn't find a way to get it done with Gary Patterson in running the defense, and you got a third-year quarterback and it's Lincoln's team, and he just had the number 1 recruiting class.
You gotta get Lincoln
What
out
the
of
hell
there.
else do you need?
You got to get Lincoln out of there at that point.
I think that they're gonna. If he don't, I think if he falls to 8-4, he's out. I mean, that's the word that we're getting out of like USCJ and those dudes. We'll see.
Sense.
But man, I appreciate you coming in, my guy.
For sure, bro. I'll catch you on the next one, man. Y'all take it easy, family.
All right, brother. Have a good one. Thanks for joining us. All right.
Sir.
Coach Smook of the Coach Smook Network, our guy. Love having him on the show, talking Bama stuff. You know, listen, this is one of the guys I trust. I trust him. He knows listen, he loves his team. Just like, here's a quick program reminder for any of you. All you guys love your team too. So it is what it is. All right. I'm going to go to a quick break and then we'll close out the rest of the show right after this.